Hey everybody, and welcome to Peschu's Corner. Today we're going to look at the non-price determinants of supply, which is effectively all those factors other than the price that can change the level of supply. They can either increase the supply or they can decrease it, depending on how they're being changed. And in today's lesson we're going to look at those influences. To begin with, let's just quickly remember what the law of supply stated. That ceteris paribus, an increase in the price level would lead to an increase in the quantity supplied. So the law of supply created that relationship between the price and the quantity supplied. Now we're interested in all those other factors that were being kept constant by the law. And we'll have a list, and then we'll look at how they will be impacting the supply. So first, we can have the quantity and quality of factors of production. Quantity and quality of factors of production. What this effectively means is the quality and quantity of the resources that are being used to produce the good or the service. Our factors of production, which are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, are the different resources that we use in order to produce things. For example, for this video, I'm using labor, which is my knowledge and filming this. I'm using some capital, which are the cameras and the PC and the microphone that I'm using to record this in order to show it on YouTube. And so all of these will have quality, and with better quality and quantity, I'll be able to produce more. So that will be the first factor. The second one that will have effect on the supply would be the cost of the factors. Actually, we looked at the quality and quantity, how available these factors are. Now we'll look at the cost. So cost of factors of production. So this deals with how expensive resources are. If resources are cheap, then it will be cheaper to produce, and we'll be able to produce more and probably selling more. If resources are more expensive, on the other hand, that would negatively affect supply, and supply should decrease. We would be less willing to sell a product for a given price simply because it's more costly to produce it. Next, we're going to have something called price of related goods. Price of related producer goods. Now, these related goods are different than the related goods that we looked at when we were looking and studying about the non-price determinants of demand. Related producer goods are such goods when the producer actually can change his output from good A to good B. Imagine, for example, let's have a look at these two markers. One is blue, the other one is black. Chances are that these were made by using the same machine. So depending on the market situation, the manufacturer would probably decide, okay, maybe these are in greater demand, so I'm gonna put these to the side and I'll produce fewer of the blue ones in order to be able to produce more of the black ones. Such decisions are often made by firms and businesses. They often use the same machinery to produce a variety of goods. Imagine a car manufacturer who makes different car models. Depending on the market situations, the manufacturer may decide to produce Model A instead of Model B, or vice versa, produce Model B more than Model A. So these related producer goods will have an impact on the overall supply. We can have unforeseen events. And our unforeseen events are usually things that we have no control over. For example, the workers may go on strike. That will negatively affect the supply because the labor used to produce goods or services will not be available. There may be a natural disaster, bad weather conditions, an earthquake, a hurricane that may cause to cease the production of a good. A couple of years ago, I remember reading about a typhoon storming in the Pacific Ocean, which negatively affected the drilling for petrol, and thus the cost of petrol in China was increasing. What other unforeseen events we can have, let's say, wars sometimes occur. That can once again affect negatively the production. So anything that we have no control over, let's say the price of oil increases. We probably need oil as one of the resources. Usually that affects the transportation costs, the electricity costs. When the price of oil increases, that usually will negatively affect supply for most goods or services. So any of those unforeseen events can have an impact on our supply. And finally, we have government intervention. And I'll speak about government intervention more. Government intervention. But what this effectively means is a fancy way of saying taxes and subsidies. Now, the general rule is this. Taxes decrease supply because taxes make it more expensive to produce, and subsidies increase supply. Why do we say that taxes and subsidies increase supply? Well, generally we're looking at taxes on production, and that's why taxes on production would be increasing the cost. In most real world examples, we are actually putting the taxes on the production. When you go to a store to buy a product, you may be paying a tax, but usually you're paying a percentage of the tax, and the majority of the tax is covered by the actual firm that's making this product. Again, tax burden will be a different lesson, which I will film in the near future, I hope. But just remember, taxes affect negatively supply. Because of taxes, supply decreases. Now, subsidies is the opposite to taxes. Subsidies are money transfers paid by the government to the producers in order to lower their costs of production. Therefore, subsidies will increase supply and have a positive effect. Right, well, let's have a look and see what actually happens when we are changing these. So I'm going to draw over here my standard supply curve. So I have the price on the horizontal axis. I have the quantity on the, price on the vertical, quantity on the horizontal, and my supply is an upward sloping line like this. This is S0, my starting supply. It's upward sloping to illustrate that positive relationship between the price and quantity supplied that was explained by the law of supply. But now we are interested in changes of these. So basically what you need to do is you need to look at a specific case and figure out if the effect on the supply will be positive or negative. And all of these are very logical. If the quality or quantity of factors is improving, that means that supply should increase. Now, how do we draw an increase in the supply? The idea is to have more quantity supplied for the same price level. And we can do this by shifting the supply curve to the right like this. Now, don't be fooled to think that S1 lies below S0 On the contrary, S1 lies further away from the origin than S0, which means that S1 is greater than S0. We can prove this. For any given price, let's pick a random price P1, if we draw a horizontal line and find the corresponding points, you will see that Q0, which belongs to the original S0, and Q1, which belongs to S1, Q1 will always be greater than Q0. So when we shift the supply curve to the right, we actually increase it, right? S1 does not lie below S0. That will be an incorrect terminology. S1 is greater than S0 and is shifted to the right. So if the cost of factors of production declines, the supply will increase and will be shifted to the right. If the quality or quantity improves, the supply will increase and will be shifted to the right. If, let's say, the price of the related producer good is declining, meaning that nobody wants to buy these guys, then I'll decide to produce more of these guys. So once again, the supply will increase. If, unforeseen events usually have a negative effect on the supply. But let's say if the price of oil declines, which is an unforeseen but positive effect, the supply will increase. If the government decreases the taxes, so it lowers the cost of producing goods, the supply should increase. If the government gives me a subsidy, again, I'll be more willing and able to sell, so I should increase my supply. Finally, the supply can decline sometimes, and which illustrate this graphically by shifting the supply to the right, to the left, like this. So a minor confusion with left and right, but from S0 to S2, the supply is actually decreasing. So we can see that S1 is greater than S0, which in turn is greater than S2. S2 is the lowest supply of the three. And we can prove this by finding the corresponding point Q2. And again, we can see Q1 is greater than Q0, Q0 is greater than Q2. So when would supply decline? Well, if the quantity or quality of factors deteriorates, for example, the available resources are harder to find, or maybe people are leaving the country, or the educational level is deteriorating for some reason, that should decrease the supply. Or maybe we are using machinery which is being, which is reduced in quality over time. We say that the machine is being depreciated. This is the economic term. To depreciate something means to lose its value. So when machines are being depreciated and our capital quality declines, supply should decrease. If the cost of factors are increasing, let's say we start to pay our workers higher wages, the supply should decrease. If the cost of machinery is increasing, the supply should decrease. If the price of my blue marker suddenly is picking up, maybe I'll say, I'm gonna decrease the output of these. I'm gonna start producing more of these because they will bring me greater profit. So the supply of the black markers will decline. Unforeseen events, a natural disaster always decreases the supply, so the supply will be shifted to the left. An increase in the price of oil almost always decreases the supply, so the supply will decrease. And finally, government intervention, increasing taxes will decrease the supply, or decreasing the level of subsidies. If I was receiving a subsidy before and suddenly a government official comes to me and tells me, listen, we paid you enough, you should be able to sustain your production on your own, and then they withdraw the subsidies they were previously paying me, then my costs of production will increase and thus the supply will decrease. All right, guys, well, that's all really regarding supply and the non-price determinants of supply. they're relatively simple, so I was able to all fit them in a single lesson, unlike the case when I was looking at the non-price determinants of demand. So again, just remember these. Try to analyze when you read the article, the case study that you're given in class or on a test, what is actually happening, and that will give you an idea how to shift the supply curve. And remember, shifting the supply curve to the right increases the supply. This is the graphical illustration to increase the supply. And shifting the supply curve to the left decreases the supply. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you're interested, please come back more. I'm constantly filming new ones. And if you liked it, please hit the like button, or even better, subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you again. Take care.